My first day as an intern started with whispers that followed me like a soft wind through the office halls. Everyone talked about him, Mr. Ethan Cross, the CEO. They said he never smiled, never dated, never joked. The way they spoke, he sounded less like a man and more like a rule. Cold, sharp, and untouchable. I tried to act calm as I walked in with my ID badge swinging on my chest. My palms were sweaty, but I told myself I was ready. It was just another job, right? Just papers, computers, and meetings. But even before lunch, I could feel his presence in the building. The air itself felt stricter whenever someone said his name. By noon, I sat with the other interns in the small cafeteria. Everyone laughed and shared stories about how strict Mr. Cross was. "Did you see him this morning?" one girl said. "He just walked past us without even blinking." Another guy laughed. "I swear, if someone can make that man smile, I'll buy them lunch for a week." Something inside me stirred. I didn't know if it was pride or pure foolishness, but I smirked. "I could make him blush," I said. The table went quiet for 2 seconds before everyone burst out laughing. "You?" one asked. "You'll melt before he even looks at you." "Fine," I said, lifting my chin. "Let's make it fun. 1 week. I'll make the CEO react, any kind of reaction." The laughter turned into excited whispers. A bet was made. I didn't even know why I said it. Maybe I wanted to prove I wasn't scared of him. Or maybe I was just reckless. That afternoon, my supervisor handed me a folder. "Mr. Cross asked for these files. Take them to his office right away." My heart dropped. The man himself. The boss. His office was on the top floor, behind tall glass doors that looked more like something from a movie. I took a deep breath, fixed my tie, and told myself not to shake. When I stepped inside, everything felt cold and quiet. The office smelled faintly of cedar and paper. He was there, sitting behind a black desk, typing something on his laptop. He didn't even look up when he said, "Come in." His voice was deep, low, and calm, too calm. I walked closer, my shoes making soft sounds on the floor. "Sir, the files you asked for." He looked up then. His eyes were gray, cold, sharp, and focused like steel. His jawline looked like it was carved from stone. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. "Put them here," he said, nodding at his desk. As I leaned forward, the papers almost slipped from my hand. Without thinking, I reached out, and so did he. Our fingers brushed for a second. It wasn't much, just a light touch, but it felt like an electric spark ran up my arm. He paused, his eyes narrowing a little. I swallowed. This was my chance. I needed to say something, anything, to make him react. "Sorry," I said, smiling just a bit. "Didn't mean to touch you, sir. Guess my hands are clumsy today." For a second, he didn't move. Then his gaze lifted from the files to my face. "You're either very bold," he said slowly, "or very stupid, Mr. Lee." I felt my heart jump. My name in his voice sounded too smooth. "Maybe both," I replied. My voice came out lower than I planned, but I didn't look away. He didn't smile, not really, but I saw something change in his eyes, a twitch of his lips, a flicker of interest. He went back to his laptop as if nothing had happened. "That will be all." I stood there, unsure if I should breathe or laugh. Then I turned and walked toward the door, pretending to stay calm even though my face burned. Back at my desk, my coworkers were waiting. "So?" one whispered. "Did you survive?" I just grinned. He spoke to me. That made them lean closer. And maybe," I said, trying not to smile too wide. He almost smiled. The group exploded with laughter. "You're crazy, Adrian." Maybe I was, but I couldn't stop thinking about the way he had looked at me. His stare wasn't angry. It was sharp, curious, almost dangerous. That night, I replayed it in my mind while lying in bed. The way his voice dropped when he said my name. The way his lips had moved, like he was fighting the ghost of a smile. It shouldn't have mattered. It was just a silly bet. But I could still feel the warmth of that tiny touch on my fingers. The next morning, I came to work early. I told myself it was because I wanted to get ahead. but maybe I just wanted to see him again. The elevator doors opened, and there he was, stepping out with his coffee. I froze. He glanced at me, then at the clock. "You're early," he said. "Trying to make a good impression," I said quickly. He gave a small nod. "Keep it that way." I stood there watching him walk away. Even the way he moved looked controlled, perfect. He didn't waste a single motion. Throughout the day, I kept catching glimpses of him from afar. The sharp line of his shoulders, the calm way he spoke to managers, the quiet power that filled any room he entered. By lunch, I told myself to stop staring. I was an intern, not a fool with a crush. Still, when I delivered another report to his office later that day, I couldn't help it. This time, he looked up as soon as I walked in. "Back again, Mr. Lee?" "Couldn't stay away," I said before my brain could stop me. His eyebrow rose slightly. "Excuse me? The files couldn't wait." I quickly handed them over, my face burning. He didn't say anything, but his gaze stayed on me for a little longer than needed. I could feel the air thicken between us. He took the paper, his fingers brushing mine again. Slower this time. My pulse jumped. His voice dropped, calm and deep. "Careful, Mr. Lee. You might make people think you're trying to get my attention." I swallowed hard. Maybe I am. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then he leaned back slightly, eyes unreadable. "You should get back to work," he said softly. I turned, forcing my feet to move toward the door. But before I left, I glanced back. His lips moved, just barely, but enough for me to catch it. A tiny twitch that wasn't quite a smile. I stepped out into the hallway, my heart pounding so hard I thought someone might hear it. Did I just win the first round? By the time the day ended, the office lights had dimmed, and most people had gone home. I stayed a little longer, pretending to finish reports but really just thinking about him. Every sound in the quiet office made me jump. Every shadow reminded me of the way he had looked at me. Sharp, focused, and yet, something else hiding behind those eyes. When I finally packed my bag and walked out, I caught a glimpse of him through the glass walls of his office. He was still there, standing by the window, hands in his pockets, staring at the city lights. For a moment, he turned his head slightly, just enough for me to see his reflection in the glass. His eyes met mine from across the distance. My breath caught. I didn't move. He didn't either. Then, very slowly, I saw the corner of his mouth lift. Not a full smile, just a faint curve that made my chest tighten. I turned and walked away before he could see how red my face was. As I stepped into the night air outside the building, I let out a shaky laugh. "Round one, Adrian," I whispered to myself. "You actually did it." But somewhere behind me, in that high glass office, I could almost hear his voice again. Deep and calm, like a warning wrapped in silk. "Let's see how far you'll go, little intern." I didn't know then how serious he was. I only knew one thing. The game had started, and my heart was already in danger. The days after the bet felt different. Every time I stepped into the office, the air felt heavier, like the walls were waiting to see what I would do next. Maybe it was all in my head, but even the sound of my own shoes on the floor made me nervous. Mr. Cross, Ethan, was the reason. Since that first meeting, I couldn't stop thinking about him. His deep voice, his calm face, the way he looked straight into my eyes like he could read every thought I had. It made my stomach twist in a way I didn't understand. I told myself it was just the bet, that I only wanted to make him react. But each time I walked past his office door, my heart raced like I was doing something wrong. So I kept teasing him. Small things at first. Extra smiles when I handed him papers. Standing a little too close when I spoke to him. Saying sir in a voice softer than I meant to. I pretended it was part of the game, but deep inside, I wanted him to notice me again, to look at me the way he had that day. And he did. Sometimes I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. His gray eyes would follow me for a second too long before he turned away. It sent a strange warmth crawling up my neck every single time. By Friday, the tension felt like a string stretched too tight. That night, most people had already gone home, but I stayed behind to finish a report. The office was quiet, lit only by the soft glow of the city through the glass walls. I liked that time of night. The silence made me feel calm. I told myself Ethan had left hours ago. His lights were off. His coat was gone. It was safe. Or so I thought. I was collecting some files from the storage shelf when I heard the elevator ding. I froze. The doors opened, and footsteps echoed through the hall. Strong, steady footsteps. My heart skipped. No one walked like that except him. I turned just in time to see him step out of the shadows. His tie was loose, his sleeves rolled up, and there was a tired but sharp look in his eyes. "Working late, Mr. Lee?" he asked. I tried to smile. "Just finishing some reports, sir." The way sir slipped from my lips sounded too soft, even to me. He walked closer, his shoes making quiet sounds against the floor. "You really like calling me that, don't you?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" He stopped right in front of me, close enough for me to smell the faint scent of his cologne. Clean and warm, like cedarwood and rain. My pulse quickened. "You've been teasing me for days, Adrian," he said, his voice low and calm, yet somehow sharper than ever. "Tell me, what exactly do you want?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The way he said my name, slow, deep, made my thoughts scatter. I don't know what you mean. Don't lie." His words were quiet but firm. His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt my breath hitch. The air between us felt thick. He took another step, closing the space completely. I could feel the heat from his body. I backed up until my shoulders touched the cold glass wall behind me. He placed one hand beside my head, his palm flat against the glass, trapping me in place. "You're brave," he whispered, his voice brushing against my ear. I could feel his breath, warm, teasing, dangerous. "But how long can you handle me?" My heartbeat thundered. Every inch of me felt alive and on fire. I wasn't serious," I managed to say, though my voice came out softer than I meant. "Then stop looking at me like that," he growled. His tone wasn't loud, but it made me shiver. I didn't even know how I was looking at him. Maybe nervous, maybe something else, but I couldn't look away. His gray eyes held mine, unblinking, searching. For a long moment no one spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the city outside. I swallowed hard. "I thought you went home." "I was about to," he said. "Then I saw your light still on." "So you came back for work?" He tilted his head slightly, a hint of a smile curling on his lips. "That's one way to call it." His words hit something inside me I didn't want to admit. My hands trembled where they hung at my sides. I didn't know if I wanted him to move closer or step away. He leaned forward just enough for me to feel the faint brush of his breath near my cheek. "Still brave, Mr. Lee?" he murmured. I couldn't even finish. My throat felt tight, and my chest rose too fast. His gaze softened just a little, the tension shifting from sharp to something almost gentle. Then slowly he stepped back. The sudden space between us felt strange. Too big, too cold. He looked at me for a second longer before turning toward his desk. "You should go home. It's late." I stood frozen. My knees felt weak, and my hands were cold even though my skin burned. "Yes, sir," I said quietly. He didn't reply. He just picked up some papers and started reading, like nothing had happened. I forced myself to move, gathering my things with shaky fingers. My mind kept replaying the last few minutes. His closeness, his voice, the look in his eyes. As I reached the door, I heard him say softly, without looking up, "Good night, Adrian." My heart jumped again. "Good night, sir." I walked out of the office, but my legs felt like they might give out at any second. The elevator doors closed behind me, and I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. The ride down felt endless. The reflection in the elevator mirror showed a red-faced, wide-eyed version of me. "What just happened?" I whispered. I pressed a hand to my chest. My heart was still racing like I had run a mile. The cold metal of the elevator wall felt nice against my back. I leaned on it, trying to breathe. I should have felt scared or embarrassed, but I didn't. I felt alive. When I reached the ground floor, the security guard waved goodnight, but I barely noticed. My mind was somewhere else, back in that office replaying every second. The way he had looked at me, the quiet strength in his voice, the heat between us. I didn't understand what he wanted from me, or what I wanted from him, but one thing was clear. The game wasn't funny anymore. It was dangerous. Outside, the city lights glowed against the dark sky. I stood there for a while, letting the night wind cool my face. My fingers still tingled where I had touched the glass. I thought of his words again. You're brave. But how long can you handle me? I laughed softly, shaking my head. Not long, probably, I muttered to myself. But as I turned to leave, a part of me knew the truth. I didn't want to handle him. I just wanted to understand why being near him felt like standing too close to fire. Painful but impossible to walk away from. The next morning, I expected him to ignore me. Maybe he would pretend nothing had happened. But when I entered the elevator and the doors slid open on his floor, he was standing there, already waiting. Our eyes met. His expression was calm, unreadable. But there was a faint glint in his gaze that made my stomach twist. "Morning, Mr. Lee," he said, stepping past me. "Morning, sir," I replied. My voice cracked a little. He didn't look back, but I saw the faintest curve at the corner of his lips. And just like that, I knew whatever this thing between us was, it wasn't over. It had only just begun. The office felt different that week. Maybe it was because of Ethan. Or maybe it was because of me. I told myself that what happened that night, when he pinned me against the glass, was nothing. Just a moment. A mistake. But every time I saw him after that, my chest did that strange thing again. That tight pull, like my heart was trying to move closer to him. Ethan Cross. My boss. The man I was supposed to tease for a bet. Now I couldn't even look at him without feeling guilty. Every morning I tried to act normal. I smiled at the interns, answered calls, delivered reports. But my eyes, they kept finding him. Even when I didn't mean to, he was always there. Tall, calm, dressed in black like he was born for it. His voice made the air heavy. His gaze made my pulse race. And lately he had been testing me. More meetings. More reasons to call me into his office. More little moments where his fingers brushed mine when I handed him papers. Every time it happened, I froze. Every time I wanted more, but I couldn't show it. That afternoon, the meeting room was quiet except for the sound of papers sliding and pens clicking. I sat beside him, too close. His shoulder brushed mine once, and my whole body reacted. I dropped my pen. He looked at me, one eyebrow raised. "Careless again, Mr. Lee?" I swallowed hard. "Sorry, sir." He leaned closer, his voice low. "You keep saying that." My breath caught. Maybe I just keep making mistakes. His eyes stayed on me for a second longer than they should have. Something unspoken passed between us. Like a current, hot and sharp. I looked away first. I told myself not to read into it. But how could I not? By Thursday, I was a mess. I couldn't focus. His voice followed me everywhere. In the elevator, in my dreams, even in the quiet moments when I stared at my laptop screen. The interns noticed. "Still alive, Adrian?" Mia teased, sipping her coffee. "You've been in his office, what, for times today?" "5. Another intern, Kyle said, laughing. "Maybe the boss finally has a favorite." I tried to laugh with them, but my heart beat faster. "Yeah," I said, forcing a grin. "Guess I'm just lucky." They didn't know. They thought it was all still a game. The bet. The challenge. But to me, it stopped being funny days ago. And that's when I heard it. A low voice behind me. "You seem to enjoy talking about me, Mr. Lee." My blood turned cold. We all froze. Ethan stood by the doorway, one hand in his pocket, his expression unreadable. His sharp eyes flicked to me, then to the interns. No one spoke. The silence was so thick. It hurt. "Mr. Cross, we were just..." I started. He cut me off with a look. "Just what?" His tone was calm, too calm. "Laughing about your bet?" I felt my stomach drop. The interns went pale. Mia stammered. "Sir, it was just a joke." Ethan's gaze returned to me. "Was I just a game to you, Adrian?" My mouth went dry. "No." I didn't mean for it to. Don't finish that sentence. His voice was quiet, but it hit harder than any shout. He turned and walked out, just like that. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I sat at my desk, staring at my screen, hearing his voice replay over and over. Was I just a game to you? I didn't have an answer, because yes, it started as one. But now, I couldn't even think about him without my chest aching. I wanted to make him smile, to see what he looked like when he wasn't the perfect, cold CEO everyone feared. But now I had ruined everything. When the office lights went off, I was still there. Everyone had gone home, even the cleaners. I stared out the window at the glowing city below. I thought about his face, the way his eyes softened for just a second when I joked with him, the way he almost smiled once, like he was holding something back, and then the way that same face turned cold today. I leaned my head against the window and sighed. I just wanted to make him smile, not fall for him. The words came out as a whisper, almost lost in the hum of the city. That night, I went to a small bar near my apartment. It was quiet, almost empty. I sat by the window with a glass of soda. I didn't drink much, and watched the rain slide down the glass. Every drop reminded me of him. I thought about his hands, his voice, the way he looked at me like he could see right through me. Maybe he could. I pressed my fingers against the cold glass. Why did you have to find out like that? I whispered. Why couldn't I tell you first? I wished I could go back, take the bet back, erase that stupid smirk I wore when I said I could make him blush. Because now, I was the one who couldn't stop blushing at the thought of him. And I hated that I missed him already. The next morning, I came to work early, hoping to see him, hoping to apologize. But his office was dark. His assistant said he had taken the day off. That made it worse. Every hour that passed without seeing him felt longer. When I checked my phone at lunch, there was a message from Mia. He looked so mad yesterday. Are you okay? I stared at the text and didn't know how to reply. No, I wasn't okay. I wasn't even close, because I didn't know how to stop thinking about him. The man I had teased, challenged, and fallen for all at once. That night, when I finally got home, I stood by the window again, watching the city lights blink in the dark. My reflection looked tired, but my eyes were full of something I didn't want to name. Longing, regret. I thought about the way he said my name, Adrian, slow and careful, like it meant something. Maybe it never did. But still, I whispered into the empty room. I just wanted to make him smile, not fall for him. The city outside kept glowing, unaware that somewhere, in a small apartment, a foolish intern was falling apart over a man who probably didn't care anymore. But deep inside, I hoped he did, even just a little, because for me it was already too late. The silence between us lasted for days. The office felt colder, quieter. Every time I walked past Ethan's door, my chest tightened. He didn't look at me, didn't speak to me. It was like I had turned invisible. And yet, I still felt him, his presence, his gaze that used to follow me, his voice that still lived inside my head. I told myself to forget him. I told myself it was better this way. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that moment again. His face when he asked, "Was I just a game to you?" It haunted me. The company event came on a Friday night. Everyone had been talking about it all week. The big celebration for landing a huge deal. It was fancy, held at a hotel ballroom with golden lights and soft music. I almost didn't go, but Mia begged me. "Come on, Adrian," she said, tugging my sleeve. "It's just one night. You can't hide forever." Hide. That's exactly what I'd been doing. So I went. When I looked in the mirror before leaving, I barely recognized myself. My suit fit perfectly, dark, neat with a silver tie. My hair was combed back for once, not messy like usual. I took a deep breath and told my reflection, "You can do this." But deep down I was shaking. The ballroom was full of laughter and music. People danced, clinked glasses, and talked about work like it was the most exciting thing in the world. And then I saw him, Ethan Cross. He stood near the corner, talking to a group of board members. He wore a black suit that fit him like it was made just for him. His posture was perfect, calm, confident, untouchable. My heart stopped. He hadn't seen me yet. I could have turned around, walked out, disappeared. But I didn't. Something in me refused to run anymore. So I stepped into the room. When his eyes finally met mine, everything around us blurred. The music faded. The lights dimmed. The world went quiet. His gaze stayed on me. Long, searching, unreadable. He didn't smile. But there was something there. A storm. Mia whispered, "He's staring at you." "I know," I said softly. My throat felt dry. We didn't talk all evening, but I could feel him watching me. Every time I laughed, every time I moved, I felt the weight of his eyes, and it burned. Later, I slipped out to the rooftop. I needed air. The city stretched below. Glowing lights, cars, voices drifting up like whispers. The wind brushed against my skin, cool and sharp. I closed my eyes. "Get it together, Adrian," I whispered to myself. "You're fine. You're over it." But my heart said otherwise. Then I heard the sound of the door opening behind me. Footsteps. Slow. Steady. I didn't need to turn to know who it was. "Couldn't stay away, could you?" I said quietly. Ethan's voice came from behind me, low and rough. "I could say the same to you." I turned around. He stood there, hands in his pockets, the city lights outlining his tall figure. His tie was slightly loosened, his hair a little messy, the first time I'd ever seen him not perfectly put together. He looked human and tired. "Why did you follow me?" I asked. "Because you keep running," he said. I frowned. "Running? From what?" His eyes darkened. "From me." I took a step closer, my chest rising fast. "And what about you? You've been avoiding me since that day." His jaw tightened. "Because you make me lose control." The words hit me like lightning. He took another step, closing the space between us. The air grew thick, heavy. I could smell his cologne, warm, clean, familiar. "Lose control," I whispered. "You always seem so calm." "Not around you," he said. His voice cracked slightly, and that tiny break made my heart race. The wind blew harder, tugging at my jacket. He looked at me like he was fighting something inside him. "Ethan," I started, but he shook his head. "Do you know what it's like," he said quietly, "to want something you know you shouldn't?" I didn't answer. My voice was gone. He took another step until we were almost touching. My breath caught. "I tried to stay away," he said. "But every time you walk into a room, He stopped, like the words were too heavy. Our eyes met. I felt everything in that look. The anger, the want, the hurt, the pull. Then he whispered, "Tell me to stop," and my heart answered before my mouth could. "Don't you dare stop." He reached for me, and before I could think, his hand was on my cheek, warm and steady. I leaned into it, closing my eyes for just a second. The city lights danced behind my eyelids, and all I could hear was our breathing. Uneven, shaky, real. When his forehead touched mine, everything inside me broke open. All the days of silence, all the nights of missing him, all the words I couldn't say, they rushed out in that single moment. I whispered, "I hate that I can't stop thinking about you." He gave a soft, breathless laugh. "You drive me insane, Adrian." The sound of his voice, saying my name like that, made my chest ache in the best way. He pulled me closer, his arms wrapping around me like he was afraid I might vanish. I held on just as tight. The world around us faded, no office, no bet, no rules. Just two people, hearts beating too fast, finally giving up the fight. We stood there for a long time, just breathing. The city stretched below us, full of light and noise, but up here, everything was still. He whispered, "You make me forget everything else." I smiled against his shoulder. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing." He sighed, his breath warm against my ear. "It is when I'm supposed to be your boss. Then maybe," I said softly, "just for tonight you're not." He didn't reply, but I felt his hand tighten around mine, like he agreed. Later, when the night grew colder, we sat on the rooftop bench. He kept his jacket around my shoulders, his arms still draped across the back of the seat. We didn't need words. The silence wasn't empty this time. It was full of everything we hadn't said, everything we felt. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "You have no idea how much trouble you are." I smiled. "You're the one who followed me." He gave me that look, the one that made me feel like he could see right into me. Maybe I like trouble. I laughed softly. For the first time in weeks, it didn't hurt to breathe. The city lights shimmered below, the wind brushed our hair, and somewhere deep inside, I knew this night had changed everything. It wasn't just about attraction anymore. It wasn't about the bet. It wasn't even about control. It was about us. Messy, scared, but real. When I looked at him again, his eyes were softer than I had ever seen them. "Ethan," I whispered. Promise me one thing." He tilted his head. "What's that?" "That you won't disappear again." He smiled. A small, tired, beautiful smile. "I'll try not to." As the night stretched on, I leaned my head on his shoulder. For once, I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel like an intern or a fool. I just felt right. He murmured again, almost to himself. "You drive me insane, Adrian." I smiled against his sleeve. Good, because maybe, just maybe, I was insane too. The morning light slipped through my curtains, soft and golden, but it did little to calm the storm inside me. I sat on the edge of my bed, fingers brushing the faint bruise on my lip that Ethan's kiss had left the night before. My heart kept replaying everything. His voice, his touch, the way he had looked at me like I was the only person in the world. I wanted to believe it meant something, but a small, scared voice inside whispered that maybe it didn't. What if he regretted it? What if I was just another mistake he wanted to forget? I took a deep breath, buttoned up my white shirt, and forced myself to get ready for work. The mirror showed a man who looked calm. Neat hair, tidy tie, professional smile, but I knew the truth. Inside, I was shaking. When I reached the office, everything felt too quiet. People moved around, greeting each other, laughing softly, typing away. But my heart raced as soon as I saw him, Ethan, standing near the glass window of his office, tall and sharp as always, a dark suit hugging his broad shoulders. He turned his head slightly, and our eyes met for a brief second. My breath caught. His expression wasn't cold anymore. It wasn't the same mask he always wore. There was something softer, almost tender. Before I could look away, he spoke. "Adrian, in my office." My heart jumped so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I nodded quickly and walked toward him, trying not to trip over my own feet. His office door closed behind me with a quiet click that somehow made the room feel smaller. He didn't speak right away. He stood there, hands in his pockets, staring at me with that unreadable look. The silence stretched until I couldn't take it anymore. "If this is about last night," I began, but my voice came out small. He cut me off gently. "It's about the bet." I froze. My stomach twisted painfully. I lowered my gaze, ashamed. "I know. I'm sorry, Ethan. It was stupid. I didn't mean for it to." He stepped closer, the sound of his shoes echoing softly on the marble floor. I felt the warmth of his presence before I even dared to look up. "Adrian," he said quietly, his tone gentler than I'd ever heard it. "You made a mistake with that bet." My heart sank. I nodded. "I know." He stopped right in front of me, so close I could smell his cologne. Clean, rich, and warm. Then his fingers touched my chin, lifting my face so I had to meet his eyes. "Because you won," he said softly. "You made me fall for you." For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. My lips parted, but no words came out. The man I once thought was untouchable, cold, distant, impossible to reach, was now looking at me like I mattered, like I was the only one who could break his calm. "You," I whispered. "You fell for me?" His smile was small, barely there, but real. "Against my better judgment. Completely." A strange laugh slipped out of me, half joy and half disbelief. My chest felt too full, and my eyes burned a little. I didn't mean to, I said honestly. At first, it was just a joke. But then, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Every time you looked at me, I know, he said softly, his hand now resting on my shoulder. And I couldn't stop thinking about you either. I looked at him closely. His perfect control was gone. His eyes were warm, full of something deep, something real. For the first time, he looked human, lonely even. I've spent years building walls, he admitted, voice rough. I thought if I stayed focused, if I stayed cold, I wouldn't get hurt. But you, he gave a small shake of his head. You ruined all that. My heart twisted. You make it sound like a bad thing. It's not. He smiled faintly. It's terrifying, but not bad. We both laughed quietly, the tension between us softening into something gentle. Then, the silence returned, but this time it wasn't awkward. It was peaceful, full of things we didn't need to say. I was scared. I confessed after a moment. Scared you'd think I wasn't good enough. He frowned slightly. Don't ever say that. His thumb brushed lightly across my cheek. You have no idea how special you are. My heart melted at his words. Ethan, I started, but he didn't let me finish. He leaned closer, slowly, giving me time to move away, but I didn't. His lips brushed mine softly, and everything inside me went quiet. It wasn't like the first kiss, wild and desperate. This one was slow, sweet, full of promise. When we finally pulled apart, he whispered against my skin, "No more bets, just us." Those words felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. I smiled, really smiled, and nodded. Just us. He chuckled softly. You really did make the untouchable CO blush. I felt heat rush to my face. You noticed. Hard not to, he teased, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. We stood there for a while, just holding each other in the quiet room. The world outside kept moving. Phones ringing, people talking, footsteps echoing down the hall. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Later that day, as I stepped into the elevator, I caught a glimpse of him through the glass wall. Ethan stood near his window, watching me go, a faint smile on his lips. The doors closed slowly, and my reflection stared back at me. The same man who once made a silly bet, now smiling because the impossible had happened. I guess, I murmured to myself, I really did make the untouchable CO blush. The elevator dinged softly, and I laughed under my breath, feeling light, truly light, for the first time in a long while. If you felt the sparks between Adrian and Ethan, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more heart-racing love stories only here on Cherryboyhearts BL.